Okay, folks, my name is Mike Rosica. You probably saw me do a few things this weekend. It's been great seeing everybody out here on getting into the wholesaling of notes. It's kind of been my bread and butter, how I've been making money in the note space when all of my capital has been deployed out buying too many other notes. I needed to raise up some capital and live and pay the bills. I did most of that by wholesaling notes. I started out in 2007 buying defaulted notes as an investor. As I was learning how to the note business, I started reaching out and building a network of people like yourselves, people that were new to the business, just like you should be reaching out to new people that are at your level of newness, and kind of grow your network to turn them into potential note buyers down the road. So when I was learning the business, Dave Van Horn was learning the business. He was part of my little network of note buyers. I didn't realize it at the time. I was just providing information to people. Dave Van Horn and PPR guys were a part of my, because we were all newbies. Everybody is a newbie at one point. I was a newbie. Dave Van Horn was new to it. His partners, Bob and John, they were all new to this business too. So I was fortunate enough to hook up with those guys when they were at beginner level. And you can do the same thing. There's people in this room that will turn into the PPRs and the USMRs of tomorrow by being newbies today. So that was a really important part of my life, was getting into the beginning of the note space and hanging out with these people and providing information. I provided free information to these people. I would hold, as I was learning the business, I would learn a new part of the business. I would learn, let's say, a new piece of software to analyze notes. Even if I learned a trick in using Excel to crunch a spreadsheet, I would hold a webinar on it. 4 people showed up. Who cares? I was having a webinar because I was trying to build a little bit of a reputation. I wasn't really trying, but I knew that I wanted to talk to my other note investors that were new to the business and kind of put me in the front of the room, kind of like where I am today. But I was doing this unknowingly, building my buyer's base for tomorrow, so that when someone gave me a tape, a bank sent me a tape, someone from LinkedIn sent me a tape, I would hold a webinar. I would put it up on my webinar screen and we would go through the spreadsheet and I go, what do you think, guys? These look like good assets or are these garbage? So it put me in front of the room, and when I did get a hold of a good tape, we collaborated and we ended up buying our first tape back in 2009. So by starting out as a wholesaler, you never want to actually watch that wire. Thanks.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
It's you, right?
No, you're okay.
Sorry.
Perfect.
Thank you.
By becoming a wholesaler, you never want to introduce yourself as a note wholesaler. You want to introduce yourself as an investor, because had I gone to Dave Van Horn or some of these other guys when they were new to the business, I said, hey, listen, I got a tape. I want to broker these things out to you. They'd be like, click, because brokers have a bad reputation. I don't know how it is in the real estate business. I know real estate brokers, they're fine. But the note space, when you say broker, it means you found something on the internet and you're looking for your 2% spread or your 2 cents or whatever they call it. So I was fortunate enough to become an investor, and that's what I'm trying to teach you guys. Go out, learn how to be an investor, learn what it takes to do the due diligence. While you're getting your education, go out and build this network. 4 people, 5 people. I had 6 people for my first trade. And those 6 people, we ended up buying 184 notes. And it was a beautiful trade, and it put me in a position of being a broker for probably the rest of my life. So while you're getting the education, become an expert. What I did was I wanted to buy notes through my self-directed IRA. I didn't know how to do that. I didn't know who to talk to about buying notes through my self-directed IRA. If you don't know about self-directed IRA, send me an email. I'll tell you what I do know about it. I had money tied up in a 401k plan. When I quit my job, I rolled those funds into an IRA, and then I went to the Equity Trust website and I pulled down every menu that they had, and I read every bit of information that Equity Trust provided me. And when I told people that I did that, and they're like, you should have a webinar. Because I guess they like the way I explain things. I held 2 or 3 webinars on self-directed IRAs, and there was a couple people in my little network that raised millions of dollars by going to their family members, helping them set up self-directed IRAs, and then taking that family money and going out and buying a ton of notes. So because of my little webinars, people were getting value out of that, and that is very important. You want to provide content and value to your network so that you become the expert. You become the people that they bring stuff to. They bring questions, they bring answers, because I was just surrounding myself with a bunch of really smart people, Dave Van Horn, one of them. And it's been the lifeblood of my business, is brokering. I call it brokering, but I say it to a very small crowd. I don't go out and say, hey, I'm a note broker. They all run away from you. Everybody thinks you're looking for that commission, you're going to rip them off, and you don't know anything about it. What I do as I broker my notes, if I trade 20 notes, I'll take 2 for myself. I'll show them the 18. They'll look them over. They'll provide me bids. Let's say they all make a bid. Let's keep this simple. They offer me, hey, I'll pay 20 cents across the board for those 18 notes. So 20 cents is 20% of the unpaid principal balance. I'll take that 20-cent bid. As it crosses my desk, I'll turn that into an 18-cent bid and send that out to the seller. Say, hey, listen, I have 18 cents bid on these 18 notes. So I'm keeping 2 cents for myself because it's 20 cents to them, 18 cents out to this actual note seller. So 2 cents, you're like, yeah, what's 2 cents? Well, 2 cents on a $100,000 note is $2,000. So I'm selling 18 notes, $36,000. I have $36,000 now to buy those 2 assets that I'm holding back, and I kept really the cream of the crop for myself. So I'm getting 2 free notes. I'm going to use part of that $36,000 commission that I'm going to receive to buy those 2, and now I fill up my portfolio, and we get to enjoy the profits on those 2 notes and take the remainder of that $36,000 and give it to my wife, and she could buy food and shelter. So it's been the mainstay of my business. I'm trying to think what other things that you can do while you're getting your note education. Whoever you pick as a note educator, you really want to go out and build that network and become the person that is the one that provides all the free information, provides the expertise. If you become an expert, now when I say expert, I don't want people to get all freaked out, you're an overnight success. By me going out to the Equity Trust website and doing my due diligence, what I would say, I know more than 95% of the people in this country about self-directed IRAs. I'm not saying I know a lot. I'm not the expert to the world, but I'm the expert to someone who has no idea what a self-directed IRA is. And you guys could become that expert. And it doesn't have to be self-directed IRAs. It could be a skill that you already have. It could be, let's say you're really good at wholesaling properties now. You're good at valuating properties. Hold a webinar on valuation. Whether it's nationwide or your niche is Philadelphia, just get out there and get in front of the room, hold some webinars. I've had GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar software since 2008. That's been the mainstay of my business. I very rarely go to events and see people face to face. Everything I do is online. by using the technology that's out there. A lot of my friends, in the beginning I was doing face-to-face meetings, and then I started meeting people online. They wanted to participate, so I said, I got to take this national. And so I would create an email base of all of my potential people that were in my network, and I would hold those email addresses privately to myself. When I was going to hold a webinar or I had a piece of information, I would blast out in a blind carbon copy to those investors, 6, 8, 20, now I blast out to 450 people. That network is mine. I stay in the middle of that network, and no one knows who else is in that network, because I built the list. That's my contacts. I keep them privately for myself. I don't want them chitter-chattering back and forth. If someone has a question in my network, they email to me the question, and if I don't know the answer, or even though I do think I know the answer, I'll blast that out to my network. Say, hey, listen, folks, I've got someone, like the guy, Walter Poser, who was in the other room. Hey, Mike, can you find me an attorney who does foreclosures in Minnesota? So I said, you know what? I actually have an investor in Minnesota who's bought first mortgages. Let me put you in touch with him. That network has built businesses for other people. They've relied on the information that has passed through my network, and it started as a hobby, and it's really become this growing machine where it's 450 people now, and I'll blast out a question and say, hey, has anyone come across a bankruptcy issue in Tennessee, or a bankruptcy issue, whatever the question is. I'll get 15 responses in 2 hours from people that are out there buying notes in my network. Everyone in here should have a network of your potential clients, your potential people that are going to provide you information, and people that are going to possibly provide you with notes. If you're in the note space. If you're not in the note space and you're in the wholesaling space, same thing. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be notes. If you're an electrician, that's going to be more of a business that's going to be locally oriented. You don't have to have webinars, but they should have a database. Everybody, I'm so big on networking. Network, you know, the phrase network equals net worth is a true story. And that's whether you have enough money to buy all your own deals. So let's say you've got $1 million, you go out and buy a ton of notes. Well, you're going to need people that you want to sell these things to. The ones that either you're going to see too many notes, you can broker those out to your network. You can just rely on your network for answers. So I know I'm talking kind of fast. It's getting late. But I just wanted to make sure that you guys kind of get a rough understanding of where you can go with this. There's a lot of potential in wholesaling notes and filling up your own portfolio and making cash on the side. Yes?
Is there information that you may not send forward when you get a tape in, or you send it out to your buyers?
And if I know any information about it, good or bad, I send that out. That's a great point. Due diligence, I've become pretty good at due diligence on these notes because I'm a note investor. When I broker out a tape, if I have answers, or if I have hints or suggestions, or maybe I'm not too comfortable with this tape, I'm not too comfortable with the person that's selling these notes, whatever it is, I'll provide that to the people that are in my network, and that's why they trust me. I'll sit down. Let's say this guy sends me a tape. He's been an investor for a while. He's got 15 notes. He shoots those notes over to me. I send them out to the network, and Billy, you're really interested, and you say, listen, I like these 5. Can you help me do due diligence? I sit down with you as a broker, which I'm not a broker, I'm an investor, and I help you decide whether or not these notes are for you, because there's a commission in it for me. But because I'm a fair and honest guy, I'm going to tell you, listen, Billy, you know, he's a great guy, but those 5 notes, I don't think the value is what he says the value is. Let's sit down and do some real evaluation of the values of the, the valuations of the properties or the collateral or, whatever the due diligence that needs to be done. And you say, okay, great, I think there's only 3 notes in there that are good. I want to offer 20 cents. So you offer 20 cents, and I go to this guy and I say, I've got an offer of 18 cents for these. And he says, no, it's got to be 19. I go back to you and no, it's got to be 21. So I always keep 2 cents for myself. Simple as that. I'm not a smart guy. I mean, I just, I keep that arbitrage of 2 cents between us. And it doesn't have to be notes. You can, I've heard it, I don't do it. I've heard that people do this with farm equipment. They do it with construction equipment. Yeah, boats, and like one guy said he does a boatload of boats. So I know I'm flying through this. Does anybody have any questions that I can kind of clarify?
What's your contact?
Yeah, we're gonna hand out cards, and
Mike?
yes, sir.
I think many of us are just getting into notes. That would be something that one would do later on, I think, once they got pretty familiar with notes, before they would...
As far as the brokering end of it?
Sending a tape that I receive in the mail, sending it to a bunch of people, I don't think that'd be often.
Right. And that's why you really need to become an investor first. You need to, I'm not saying that it's mandatory, but you should at least learn how to be an investor. And I don't mean you have to go out and buy 300 notes and know how to kill it, but you need to know what it takes to do the due diligence so that you can sit down with Billy and say, hey, I know you're really hot on these notes, but let's sit down, let's cool off, let's make sure that you can really make money with these things. And you're bringing a total value add to him, and he's going to say, wow, this guy has webinars on self-directed IRAs, which I set up, and it worked, and that worked. And then he showed me how to use AbleBits in Excel spreadsheets where I can combine thousands of notes and keep them separated. He had a webinar on that, and that was really cool. I've never seen anything like that before, and it was an add-on for $100 that he put into Excel. He showed me how to use amortization software and get prepared to actually board the note into my system. Even though it's going to a servicing company, I can track the progress that the servicer is doing with my note. He's had a webinar on that. That was really cool. And now he's going to provide some due diligence and help me buy notes that he found. This guy's pretty cool. And you can use this type of process with the note vendors that are outside. You can go to Granite Loan Solutions and say, get set up with them and say, hey guys, I'm looking for non-performing assets nationwide. Send me what you have between $50,000 and $200,000 of value of the property. They'll send you a rough looking tape usually. It's nothing fancy. You take that tape, you drill down on 3 particular properties, or 10 or 20, and you create a 3-page color brochure that is trick looking, and you've got more information than Granite Solutions provided you. You did a ton of due diligence on your own, and now you take those notes and you reach out to your 4 or 5 people that are in your network and say, listen guys, I did some upfront due diligence on these notes. What do you think? And they'll look at it and say, wow, where'd you get all this information? Well, don't worry, I got this from the tax records. I know that there's only $2,300 in taxes. Granite thinks there's $6,000 in taxes. You play a value add by providing, you call some realtors that are local to the properties. You get some feet on the ground and do an analysis of the neighborhood. And now you're providing value to him because he's going to give you a $5,000 commission that he doesn't even know he's giving you. Because the way that process works is, let's say he actually does like this note, and there's going to be a $5,000 commission on something that you took a Granite loan and tuned it up and really made it like a nice brochure. Now you're going to You know what Granite wants for the thing. They want $23,000. So your price on the brochure is $29,000. He gets you down to 28, and now you're going to have a purchase and sale agreement to him for $28,000, and you're going to have a purchase and sale agreement with Granite for $23,000. He's going to wire you the funds for 28. You're going to wire them the funds for 23, and you're going to make the 5,000 spread. Your purchase and sale agreement with Granite is going to match his purchase and sale agreement, the language, so that if he comes back and says, hey, this note is not what it's represented, you go back and say, hey, this note is not what's represented. Purchase and sale agreements match. That's the way the actual trade goes down. Yes, sir.
One question I've heard about over the years I've been interested in those in terms of brokering, where the certain tapes get brokered like on chain.
Yeah.
I was just wondering your experience with that and how do you kind of...
It's a horrible experience. There's nothing worse. That is going to come from your experience in just going out to, let's say, LinkedIn. The LinkedIn is, it's a great place, I guess, to meet people. I don't know. But it's really a quagmire of people. Hey, I got this deal. Hey, I got this deal. Psst, hey, I got this deal. Boom, boom, boom. Before you know it, there's 3 people, 4 people, 5 people away from the owner of the tape. I stay away from those as hard as I can. I don't want to. I've tried. I've really tried to close a deal where I'm 2 people away, and it's a horrible process because the end buyer tells me, hey, I want to know when we can close. So I go to this person and say, hey, when can we close? They go to that person, hey, when can we close? Ugh, it's the worst. So you really need to know who you're dealing with. It's important to know who the source is. When you're buying stuff from Granite, you're buying stuff from Granite. I mean, Granite's not going to be trying to sell stuff from Gemini Capital because they're too busy selling stuff from Granite. Gemini Capital's too busy buying stuff for themselves to be worried about buying, so by going straight to these funds, you're okay. If you're buying stuff off of me, by me telling you that I'm not going to go through that process, you can pretty much guarantee that, because I'm vetting myself out right now in front of everyone, because I've been through that and I'm not going to go through that again. So I don't know. That's how you protect yourself from that, and it's a bad reputation real quick in this business, real bad. So be very careful of your sources of where you're getting the notes from. This business is also very relationship oriented. Obviously, relationship oriented with the people that are in your network of buyers, because you're building up this network, and a relationship with the people that you're buying the stuff from, or the sellers. That's like almost like a dating game, because they don't know you. You have to prove to them that there's somebody that they should be doing business with, and so you better have your ducks lined up in a row before you go and try to pull the trigger with these guys or anybody. Did you have?
My question to you, Mike. So I know earlier that I was listening to Jeff talk about getting in. So, for example, all right, we know these folks are in place, Granite, Gemini, whatever. What is the approach to, if you're going to source notes for other people? Is there an expectation on their part that you're coming in with skin in the game? How does that?
I would approach them honestly. Say, listen, I'm a note investor. My capital is tied up right now in other things, because it's tied up in the houses or rentals that you own.
Right.
I would like to broker out some of these notes. Do you guys even do that? Would you work with me on that?
Right.
Microseca trained me. Well, PPR. I know Dave Van Horn really well, or I know Jack Krupe.
Right.
Use your throw around some names to give yourself some credibility until you have the credibility to close yourself. Let them know that, hey, I plan on brokering these things.
Right.
I plan on partnering with these things is a great conversation too. Partnering, to me, is a little bit off track, but it's not. So in a position now where you're going to be going in, And you can actually throw names around that you plan on partnering with. I plan on partnering with Mike Rosica on a couple of notes. Would you be interested? Oh yeah, well, you know, what's your intentions? Well, show me some notes. Let me see how this is going to go down. But you have to talk to people. You know, you have to get in there and find out what works for them. Because ultimately, you're the one with the cash, but they're the ones with the notes. So, you know, it's a funny thing. We were just laughing about this before. Sometimes these things turn out to be kind of like a bad drug deal. You know, it's you know, she's got a gun to my head. You give me the money. No, give me the notes. No, give me the money. You know, give me the notes. You know, and then boom, boom. You know. But you don't want that to happen. And it's really a relationship. It's a dating game, and you don't want it to ever be, you know, where you're going through that process.
Sorry for some of the questions. How do you handle?
I love questions.
How do you handle situations when you have an end buyer that says they want to put in a bid, but then they back out?
You kick them out of your network. You know, first of all, you have to. These people are in your network. They're not people that you're meeting for the first moment. These are people that you already have a relationship with. Every person, until I got to the point where I was at about 250 people in my network, I've had phone conversations with each one of them to find out what their intentions are and to find out if they actually bring any value to the network. You know, one's an accountant, one's a CPA. Well, I'm going to be calling you up probably at one point because I'm going to have a person who's going to have a question about CPA tax issue. Or I'm an attorney in Wisconsin and I heard about the note business. Well, tell me about it. Like, have you bought notes before? Right? That's how I start so many conversations with people is like, well, cool. You know, you like the note business. How many have, well, I haven't bought any yet. All right. So where are you leaning towards? Well, I don't really have any money. I want to be a broker or I want to be in, you know, I vetted out everyone that's in my network until I got to about 250. And then I kind of slowed down because I really have enough people in my network that I'm happy to work with.
How long did that take, Mike? 250 people? A couple of years?
250, 6 years. These are 250. I know these people like I know them, like I know, you know, a lot of guys at these events. These are people that I've had several phone conversations with. I know where they're coming from. I know what they plan on doing with the notes, what they plan on doing with the properties, how they plan on handling the borrowers if they are note investors. I have to like them because I might have to do business with them. And if I don't like them, I've only kicked a few people out of my network because I was so good at vetting them in the beginning. It's very rare that they were so aggressive and they were maybe so aggressive towards the properties that they weren't even handling the borrowers correctly. You're out. Or if they were, like you said, they come to the table, they want to close, hey, things happen. But it better be a legitimate excuse or reason what happened. It's happened to me. I've set up, I had a buyer. We were going to buy, I don't know, 8 or 10 notes, and I went to the seller, we agreed on a price, and then this guy, he's like, Mike, I'm so sorry. I screwed up. I'm just so sorry. And it's only happened once. I can't close. I thought we had capital committed. Now, he was getting money from an investor to do this purchase. Their commitment fell through. So their commitment, they were committed to buy these $50,000 trade, and it was actually with a company that was here this weekend, and they forgave me because I've done other trades with them, and they've gone fine. So it does happen. You try to make it happen as rarely as possible, and you never, ever do this business with strangers. The seller is going to be a stranger, but your end buyer is never a stranger because they're a person in your network. You know, the sellers are always going to be strangers. If you're constantly going out and making new relationships with note sellers, these funds, that's always going to be a stranger. But the people that are your end buyers are never strangers in my network. These are people that I've talked to, I know them. You could try to do it through getting papered up and you know, non-disclosure agreements. I think that everybody should be covering themselves legally. I don't do it. I should, but I don't, because I really know my people. And these are people, you know, 6 years for 250 people is horrible. Those are horrible numbers, but I have a 50% open rate on my emails that I send out, because I don't send out junk. I don't spam these people. A 50% open rate is unheard of, but I only have 250 people. So quality versus quantity. Do I want 10,000 people on my email list and I get a 1% open rate? Because there's software, there's email provider that I use now because I have so many contacts. It tells me how many people. Do I really care how many people open it? No, because I'm getting really good feedback. I'm getting really good answers when I send out a question for someone else. But I do email conversations where I email out to people and I say, hey, did you hear about this new HARP program? How's this going to affect us? Please reply. And I'll get 30 replies in a day. That's awesome. That's for people to actually go, oh yeah, MicroSeeker's asking a question. I like that. That's the kind of people you want to have in your network, and not people that say, yeah, I buy notes, but then you find out that they're end around and they're end around and they're end around. You really got to vet them out. And I'll leave that process up to you on how you actually determine if these people are for real or not. By asking them investor questions, not broker questions. You need to become an investor to ask them the questions that investors like to hang out with other investors. Dentists like to hang out with other dentists. They don't like hanging out with patients. They like to hang out with dentists, you know. They want to talk drill bits. They don't want to hear about how much it hurts. They want to hear about how much you made. So that's kind of, investors want to hang out with investors. Yes, sir. Yeah, and then I'm pretty much toast.
We talked about vetting your people that you work with.
Yeah.
When you find a new seller, do you vet them at all, or at least ask them to leave on the notes that they're trying to sell?
Yeah, you do, and I'm going to leave that process up to you too. You know, if you're a good judge of character, great. If you're not, you're probably in the wrong business. Because this really is a people-oriented business. Even though it's all about real estate and it's all about numbers and spreadsheets, it's still it's a team sport. You need to know people, you know, even just a little bit. If you guys are out doing real estate deals now, you know that that's a people business too. If you're doing wholesaling, you still have to go out and talk to the homeowners, hear their pain, figure out how you can help them out. It's the same thing with the note business. It's relationship driven. If you're trying to figure out, like I said before, if you're dealing with Granite, you know they're real. If you're dealing with Jack Krupa, you're pretty much, you know, you're assured that they're going to do what they say. If you're dealing with Apollo, they're going to come through, because they're not going to be invited back to one of these events if you were turned on to them here and then you find out that they, you know, something didn't go right. So one thing about this business too is it's much smaller than you think. Everybody knows everybody eventually. It's very easy to get a bad reputation the word spreads like wildfire, because it's a community, you know, and especially when you get into the junior lien space, everybody knows everybody. And you meet someone who's been doing junior liens for 20 years and like, why don't I know you? You know, because it's just that kind of a business.
I was just wondering, occasionally you hear of people who are doing a development and they'll build like half the development and then they go bankrupt or whatever. And I'm assuming somebody ends up with those notes, but I haven't heard anything here. This is on single family and that's considered more commercial?
That's definitely commercial. Yeah. When you get into...
You know about commercial notes?
I know that I want to get into it. It's a space that, you know, I like the idea. I actually have a couple of students of mine. One is a commercial real estate appraiser, which is a whole nother thing. Their appraisals can be this thick and cost $10,000. Because they're appraising, she was telling me that she does nationwide appraisals. Golf course. You know, how do you appraise a golf course? Like, how many people are going to come and play? You know, it's mainly the land. How much revenue does the clubhouse generate? How about the 19th hole, the watering hole? How much capital is that going to generate if you have a good clientele? So she's in the commercial appraisal business, and then I have another student who is in very good contact with a bunch of banks where she's looking for residential and all she can find is commercial. Like, move into commercial? She's like, absolutely. She goes, the numbers are fabulous. $5 million, $10 million deals. Well, let's do a 2 cents on $5 million bucks. I mean, we'll just take a penny. We don't need 2 cents on a trade like that. That's ridiculous. So that's a whole nother world out there. And when we were out contacting banks, when we were getting started in this, actually my wife is sitting in the second row here. She was contacting banks. She wanted to kill me. But I'm like, you got to call these banks. You know, like I called like 40 banks today, right? How many? What's a normal day? It's tough. You get to run around, you get pushed around. But if you don't have any capital and you want to get into this business, you got to do something. So you might as well call some banks. You might as well make some contacts, move some paper. If you find contacts and you haven't set up your network, call me up. I have a network. If I don't have a network that handles commercial, I'll tell you how to get into the commercial space. I can tell you how to find people that are in the commercial space. I know how to contact people. So,
real fast, with contacting banks, we want to. Well, I know different banks, different departments. You may have to fish around a little bit.
More than a little bit.
Asset management and I don't know.
Oh, the terms, it's huge. Yeah. Yeah, from secondary market, asset trading desk, non-performing trading desk. It's a endless number. But thanks, folks. I really appreciate you guys coming tonight. Thank you.